This is Ready, Set, Renovate, a podcast delivering renovation inspiration and motivating you to put your home beautifying ideas into motion. Daniel Builders builds trust in 5 ways. Connecting on an emotional level is one of those ways. This is a process of asking good questions and listening to our clients closely. Probably the best question we could ask going into a custom renovation is why? Why do you want to transform your home? Our guest on this episode, Chris Cloud, specializes in helping people answer their why. As you'll hear, knowing the answer can change the entire course of your renovation, and more importantly, protect you from a discouraging and disappointing outcome. So let's get to it. Daniel Builders specializes in custom renovations. That's what we do. How do you start a custom renovation? Well, as our guest today is going to tell us, you start with a question. What is that question, Chris?
Well, one of the things, as you know, through my consulting work and working with different builders and service businesses, one quote that I love is from Peter Drucker, and he said, "People rarely buy what the company thinks it's selling." And so that got me thinking, A, what are my clients really selling, right? And then what are people really buying? And so that kind of piggybacks on the other quote, which is from Theodore Levitt, which he said, people don't really buy a drill; they're buying a hole in the wall, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that when we start with, what am I really buying? Why am I really doing this? Right? I think we're starting to get at what we're really after.
So to summarize that question, that initial question needs to be why?
That's right.
Why am I moving forward with a custom renovation of my home?
That's right. Yeah.
And what are some of the potential answers to that question? What are there right answers, wrong answers? What should they be going for? Because like the 2-year-old who always asks, but why?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
At some point you got to end it and say, you have the answer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
When
Yep.
do you know that you have the answer?
Yeah, I think, really, nobody buys construction, right? Nobody buys 2x4s and a roof, right? They're probably buying a space for a reason, right? And so I think a lot of homeowners, just assume, well, I want a pretty space. It's time to upgrade. I don't like my kitchen.
My house is outdated.
My house is outdated. It's time to kind of modernize, right? And we all have our different reasons. And none of those are bad, right? All of those are great. But I think what you find, and what I found working with, talking with many, many homeowners, interviewing them, people that are renovating, people that are building, working with the guides, like Daniel Builders guides. What
We call our salespeople guides, not
right.
salespeople.
That's
so
right.
for the audience who may be wondering, what is a guide?
That's right.
It's
And
a salesperson that's
Right.
actually not real salesy.
That's right.
Go
And
ahead, I
so-
interrupt.
So in working with, with kind of hearing so many stories, what I found is everybody's got their big why. They just don't always know it. And so oftentimes you're going to have to ask yourself a lot of 2-year-old whys to get to the
To
real
get
why.
to it.
Yeah. And so there's a Japanese exercise called the 5 whys.
Yeah.
And I teach this to my clients to help their clients figure out their big why. And so sometimes it takes 5 whys to get to the real why.
Really?
The big why. Yeah. And so that might go something like, hey, why do I want to renovate? Right? Maybe you could ask yourself this.
All right.
Maybe somebody else could ask.
Let's role play right now.
Let's do it.
I'm the client, you're the guide, and I'm trying to understand my why.
All right,
So
great.
you asked the question, why renovate? Well, I want a beautiful house.
Makes sense. Beautiful houses are great. And why is that important to you?
Now you're stumping me. I don't know, because I think that it's something that would make me feel great.
Yeah? Make you feel great? Well, why is that important?
I don't want to go through my life feeling not great.
Makes sense. So at this point, I'd probably stop you if you were a real client.
Yeah.
And probably coach you through this.
Yeah.
Right? And so somewhere in there, why is a beautiful space, is that inspiring to you? Or is it something that, is there something important about that for you?
Yeah.
Will?
Well, I see my house as my sanctuary, a place that I retreat to, where I can relax. And, if it's aesthetically pleasing, then I'm probably going to enjoy it more.
And what do you see? What kinds of things would you envision yourself doing in this inspiring, aesthetically pleasing space?
Having friends over, cooking.
Is that something you're into?
Sleeping. Yeah, cooking. I love to cook. I'm a 5-star chef.
Does that usually entail other people that you're hosting and kind of putting on an experience for with
Absolutely.
with your cooking?
Yes.
What's a story of maybe a time where that happened for you?
This is all fictional, by the way. I'm not a 5-star chef.
Yeah, we're doing role play.
Yeah, role play. Get to pretend. Yeah, no, this is good. It is help. It's generating the thinking that you're going to have to go through before you actually commit to a major renovation.
That's right. And so for you in that case, that might have been, hey, I want an inspiring place where I could put on a great experience for people, right? Showcase my skills and bring people together. That might have been your why.
Tell me this. What is a consequence of not getting the answer?
That's a good question. So I think what can happen is if we haven't thought about why we're doing this, you can get into the middle of a build and sometimes there's big decisions to make, right? Like what kind of fixtures we're going to do, what kind of lighting we want, practical decisions that are going to make, around design, aesthetic, and things like that. Sometimes if we don't know the why, we can get into trouble there.
Yeah.
It's way harder to undo a build than it is to start in the right direction.
That's an excellent point. It really is, because if you're deep into a project and then you're starting to get clear on your why, you've probably passed the point, I wouldn't say of no return, but it becomes much more costly.
That's right.
To turn around.
That's right. And it can help you make the better decisions in the beginning, because maybe you discover that your why means you really should build a whole new house instead of renovating. Or maybe it means you don't need to build a new house, you should renovate. Or maybe it means we don't need just to move. We need to move to a new city, because this really isn't aligned with our why.
And that was actually a topic of a prior episode where we talked about renovation may not be your best option. And we sell renovation work. So you would think we would not say that. Like, yeah, everybody should be renovated. But it's true what you just said.
Right.
Not everybody should.
That's right. And I would correct that and say you don't really sell renovation work.
What do we sell?
Well, let's figure that out, right? You're selling somebody's big why.
Yeah.
Right? They're not buying renovation. They're buying something that's going to happen in that space, right? Nobody's buying the hole in the. They're not buying the drill.
Yeah.
Right. They're buying something else that's important to them, and we hear all kinds of things, right? And I'm sure you hear the stories, and it's usually not I'm buying
a renovation project. Yeah. Now you're buying a new home. You're buying a new living space. So, good point. What do you do, Chris? Do you help people answer their why on a number of different areas, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I work with business owners to help them help their clients better. And so oftentimes business owners are operating, if they're growing, they're experiencing a lot of growing pains that come as a result of success. And so I'm helping them kind of discover their why as owners, and then align their organizations to that. And so that means developing processes that will scale, processes that provide an amazing experience to their customers that can be repeated, and not just hope that one time we get it right, but that we can get it right every time.
Yeah, process. That's essential. It's absolutely essential, because part of building trust is having consistency.
That's right.
Right? And processes give you that.
That's right.
That consistent. When it comes down to finding a renovation contractor, what would you advise if you had a client that said, I need to find just the right renovation client? Help me, guide me to that person, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I think that, obviously there's different ways, there's myriad ways to go about a renovation, right? So I would first kind of say, okay, well, look, what are you looking to get out of this? Right? There's probably 3 different ways you could go about this, right? There's the do-it-yourself method, which is kind of figure it out as you go. You probably don't do this all the time. You're going to need to find subcontractors. You're going to need to spend tons and tons of your time
looking at Google reviews and stuff.
Google reviews, trying to get the, word of mouth out there, whatever it may be, to put this together and just do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Some people go down that road. It feels like a cheaper road for people on the front end, and it oftentimes becomes very expensive in the long run, and very cumbersome and very
time consuming.
And so you need to ask yourself, what's your time worth?
Yeah.
If you're going to go down that road, and it's the right decision for some people, but it's not right for everybody. And then, a tier above that might be, I'll just hire a contractor and sort of do a lot of the work with them in tandem, and they can kind of sub out the work. And that's a bit more expensive on the front end, and that takes some of the learning, shortens some of the learning gap. Like the contractor already knows the business. They've got contractors they're working with, right? And subs they're working with. And that can save you a lot of headache as well. But that's more in-depth still, and that still ends in a lot of...
So that second option would actually save you a tremendous amount of time versus trying to, and some people are equipped and able to be their own contractor in a way and coordinate everything with the trades and coordinate all the design. But it's not something you would recommend to just any weekend warrior.
That's right.
If you value your time and you value getting it right,
yes,
then you need to start with the right contractor.
Right. And then I say that's the third tier, which is probably, like more like Daniel Builders, which is somebody where you can really lean on them and just do the fun parts.
Yeah.
And that's where the experience comes in.
Yeah.
And that's where I know you guys have invested in really providing a great experience. And it's something you can enjoy and something you're getting into, what you're getting into, and there's not surprises along the way, which is what happens in 99% of builds and why you hear all these stories, and these disasters.
And when you say surprises, renovation surprises are rarely pleasant surprises.
That's right.
They're like, oh my goodness, I got to do what?
Yep.
And I have to pay what? You just found what in my walls?
That's right. They're expensive. It might mean we have to, rent an Airbnb for another month and not live in the house.
Yeah.
Like it can be really, really cumbersome and painful.
Surprises aren't good.
That's right. And so I think, what's great about Daniel Builders, and obviously I'm biased. I've worked with, you guys for many years, but, is I know that your guides are helping your clients find their why. And that's a big deal, especially like you're a couple. You might have two different whys.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the guides are guiding them through and guiding you through that process, which is a big deal. What's that worth, right? To find that on the front end. So find a contractor that can really help you with the why, but also figure out what kind of experience you want, I would say, to somebody looking to renovate. Do you want a really delightful experience? Yeah. Or do you want to I want to figure it out while I go, I'm going to do it myself. It's going to be dirty and I'm
going to try to get it at the rock bottom price I can.
Rock bottom price I can. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's good to know what you're getting into.
Chris, thank you for being on. You shared some wonderful insights. It is important to answer that question, why? Getting your renovation right requires that the right answer to that question is found. And thank you guys for watching. We look forward to doing this again.
Thank you, Will. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We're delighted you tuned in for today's episode of Ready, Set, Renovate, your guide design build resource. Are you ready for your home to undergo a transformation? We'd love to talk to you about it. Visit us at danielbuilders.com and tell us about the home renovation you envision. In the meantime, subscribe to Ready, Set, Renovate, and we'll keep the renovation inspiration coming.